Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of A Tuner's Life. So, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. My name is John Ruggiero. I'm a third-generation piano technician. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, or actually Cary, North Carolina. It's basically a suburb of Raleigh, North Carolina. So I do in-home service. I've had experience working in retail. I do a lot of concert work. I also have a small rebuilding shop, so I do complete rebuilds, mainly old Steinways, old Mason and Hamlins, pretty much anything that needs work. I do a lot of work on European pianos. My family owns a store which I worked at for more than 15 years, and they sell Bösendorfer and sold Blüthner, Bechstein, Fazioli, Schimmel, a lot of really high-end brands. So I have a lot of experience with European pianos. But the point of this blog is really just to, I'm going to start moving on towards my first appointment. It's really to kind of give you a sense for just my day-to-day life. Just a lot of people ask me, what is it like being a piano tuner? How can you stand to tune that many pianos? That kind of thing. So I figured, well, this will give you a good idea. And it's not going to be a whole lot of going into people's homes, just because I don't want to invade their privacy. But it'll be a lot about, me going into homes and then coming here and telling you what I found, and sort of letting you know what I did and, what I found in different appointments. And then also, taking you a little bit into my shop and showing you the work that I'm doing. And I'm just giving you a sense for what it's like to own a small business. I started this business after working for my dad for a bunch of years. I started this business 5 years ago. So I've gone through, what it's like to start a small business. And it's not always, it's not all fun. It's been a lot of work, but I've been lucky to be successful and to be able to support a family, and do something that I really love, which is really, these days, I think, really rare. I mean, the fact that I can support a family doing something that I would almost do for free is really, I count myself as blessed for sure. So anyway, this is day number 1, so let me give you a rundown sort of of what my day will be like. So I've got, 6 pianos to tune today. So they're all in town, right pretty near where I live today. I do travel pretty good ways. I would say I travel within probably a 2-hour drive time from my house. So I do some traveling. And so today it's pretty local. So my first appointment is at a customer's house. She has, I think, 4 or 5 kids. And she actually has 2 pianos in her house because she has so many kids practicing. She has one son who's pretty advanced, and so he has a piano that mainly he uses, and then they have their old piano, which kind of serves as the beater piano for all the other kids to take their lessons. But they have a Boston upright. I think it's a Boston Studio. It's their better piano, and they have some god-awful Chinese stencil piano or something. It is horrible. So it's barely tunable, and the action is noisy and they're heavy. So, while the Boston Studio isn't exactly setting the world on fire, compared to what they had, it's like, it's like a Bösendorfer or something. But anyway, I'm going there first. So I've got 2 pianos to tune there. And then my next appointment is at a church to tune in a sanctuary. I tune for a lot of churches, so, especially at Christmas time, it gets pretty hectic, just trying to fit all the churches in. So I've got one piano there in their sanctuary, and then after that, I've got another in-town appointment. Or actually, no, that's not correct. Let's see, is it another church? Yeah, I think I've got another church, 2 pianos in another church, and then another appointment at the end of the day. So It's a pretty crazy day today, but pretty normal. I generally tune about 6 pianos every day. It goes 2 hours apart, so I start at 8 a.m. and I tune one at 8, 10, 12, 2, 4, and the last one's between 5:30 and 6, depending on if I've managed to run a little bit early. But it just depends on what I run into. If I have a bunch of customers that I tune their pianos very often, then it's usually pretty simple. I'm out of the house in 45 minutes to an hour. If it's a piano that hasn't been tuned in 10 years or more, then it's going to take closer to an hour and a half because I have to do an extra tuning. So it's a pretty cool life. I get to drive. I like driving, and you get to meet a lot of really nice people. I mean, you meet a few just crazy people, but that's part of it. I mean, you really you learn how to deal with people on their level. So if someone is just being completely unreasonable, usually there's some reason why they're that way. So a lot of times it's not just fighting with them, it's trying to peel back the layers a little bit and figure out, why is their mindset this way? Why are they so difficult to to make happy? Usually when you try to identify them on a more personal level, they just, usually the guard comes down. So, I enjoy dealing with people who are sometimes difficult at the beginning. And so many of my customers, they've become almost like friends. I see them a couple of times a year in some cases, or maybe once a year. And gosh, I mean, I was at a lady's house the other day, and her kids, all of her kids are out of high school, and when I started working for her, they were my kids' age, like young kids, 8 years old and younger. So, it makes me feel old, but, and I'm not that old. I'm in my mid-30s, but boy, it's kind of cool to, watch people grow up. You watch people move from small houses where they started out to getting a bigger house, changing jobs. I've had customers move to the West Coast and then move back. It's really, it's pretty cool. So also you'll see sometimes I do go over and work at my parents' store. I have a good relationship, even though I worked there and then left the business. It was more because I just didn't want to do retail as much anymore. I don't even know if that's right. I didn't mind doing retail or doing sales. It was just the hours, and the weekend hours that were a real problem. When I started having kids, retail is a 6 or 7 day a week sometimes just drag. I worked a lot of weekends, a lot of Saturdays. We had a lot of events, did a lot of fundraisers. We always having business meetings with clients, with factory reps, with piano manufacturer owners. It's just a lot of stuff, and it didn't seem like a lot until I was married and had kids, and then you realize I'm never home, and it was really hard on my wife. And I don't know that things are completely easier on her now because she's scheduling my appointments, but I at least have the freedom to make my own hours. So if I have a day and I need a day off, it used to be a real problem. Just to get a day off, there would be so many things, so many appointments that I would have booked, customers have booked them months ahead, and canceling people isn't really what you want to make a habit of. So you'll see sometimes I go over there, I do some floor tunings for them. I also do a lot of contract work, mainly concert work, I would say. Me and my dad, we're both fairly in-demand concert tuners. We handle the North Carolina Opera, the ballet. Done some tuning for the North Carolina Symphony. We've got a couple of universities that we handle. And so just the sheer volume of concerts, it can get overwhelming for one technician to handle. So we do a lot of tag teaming. I'll go and do a tuning, my dad will go and do a tuning. So you'll get to kind of see and hear about some of the adventures of doing concert work as well, because that can be it's not for everybody, I would say that. Definitely if you don't like handling pressure and short time windows and dealing with tuning through noise and dealing with whatever artist, or the artists are never the problem. It's always the artist managers or it's some crazy sound guy who can't put a microphone in a piano the right way. Or it's just dealing with stage crew that is obnoxiously loud and they're not going to be quiet for you. So it's learning how to deal with that. So also in terms of my training, like I said, I'm third generation, so I grew up in a rebuilding shop. So my background started out that way, and I'm glad it did. And then I guess when I was starting high school probably is when I started really doing tuning training. And I would say by the time I was out of high school, I could do a solid tuning on a piano. It wasn't good for what I do now. I would say it would never pass muster for me now, but I was serviceable. It was good enough that in college I could do a few floor tunings and make a little extra money, and it got me started. I'm actually a trained percussionist. I was a pretty talented drummer and went to college. I never finished. I went for 3 years to college and studied drums, and thought maybe I would be pursuing a career in as a pit musician. I did a lot of Broadway style shows, and it was fun. It was never really great, and to be honest, I wasn't really world class. So I decided, this is not for me. I'm actually a better piano technician than I am a drummer. So I decided I'm gonna leave school. I'm coming home. I'm gonna dive in with both feet, and it was probably the best decision that I ever made, both financially and mentally. Just getting out of that environment where I really wasn't happy, and just pursuing something that I really love. And it's been financially lucrative for my family and gives us a comfortable lifestyle. So I worked a lot in the shop, and while working at the store, I had a lot of really good opportunities. I went over to Schimmel Piano Company. I did sort of a small seminar. It was only a couple of weeks, but it was mainly on concert voicing, regulation, and then also on dampers, which was a really, really great part of the class. I was working with damper systems, installing dampers from scratch. I actually got to put the dampers in one of the first Schimmel 230s, which is pretty cool. I also went to the Yamaha Performance Piano Seminar, which is a pretty exclusive class. They basically have to invite you. They have around 6 technicians that they invite to do a seminar there. It's mainly concert prep, sort of taking pianists to the next level, and it's mainly surrounding their upper end handmade pianos, their CF line of pianos, which are really, really world-class pianos. I'm going to pause this for a second.